Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today on It's Armageddon, the aliens are back. And this time, you think they'd have all of the Doctor Who stories by now. Do they just not know how to make copies of them or something? This time, they want to take half of our 60s stories there. So we will be talking about 60s Doctor Who today. And today, you have to pick which 60s stories you would be willing to sacrifice. Now, the aliens have been a little nice due to my amazing negotiation skills, and they have decided that on the seasons that have an odd-numbered amount of episodes, they're going to take the lesser number. Like, you know, a season with 7 stories, they're only going to take 3. We'll keep 4. A season with 9 stories, they're only going to take 4. We keep 5. So they only take the lesser amount of the half. You know, that's aliens etiquette. So we're going to start with season 1, which has 8 stories. So they will be taking half of them. And this gets a little hard progressively as we go. Now, I know the first one I'd give up is Marco Polo simply because it's missing. Most of season 1 is intact. With Marco being completely missing, it makes sense for it to be one of the 4. I know a lot of people like Marco Polo. The backgrounds, the photos, the behind-the-scenes photos of it, excuse me, make it look like it was a glorious production. But with it being the only completely missing story, it has to be one of those to go, logically to me. Next is The Edge of Destruction. Again, it's just 2 parts we're losing. And aside from the ending, I'm not a big fan of The Edge of Destruction, to be honest. I love the ending, and I hate losing that ending, because it's the first time you really see the Doctor start to be kind of compassionate and nice to Ian and Barbara. Great ending, but I don't really care for that 2-parter. And again, since this season has so many stories I either like or I feel are necessary to keep for historical reasons, much like An Unearthly Child and the Daleks. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Daleks, but I think you need to keep it just because it's the original Daleks. So next on the list is the Censorites. Now, I've only watched the Censorites once, which one of my subscribers sent. Actually, 2 of my subscribers sent me copies of the Censorites, which I appreciate. And I enjoyed it well enough, but it is not quite as engaging as some of the other stories this season. I don't know how I'll feel about it on a rewatch. But it definitely makes sense for it to be one of the ones to have to go if one of them had to go. And then last on the list was really hard because I like all of the other stories, or I deem them important. An Unearthly Child, the Daleks, the Keys of Marinus, the Aztecs, and the Reign of Terror. It's really hard to pick. I would actually give up the Aztecs, and I know that's not a popular choice, but I love the Reign of Terror more. And I understand some people would give up the Reign of Terror just because it's incomplete. But I prefer the Reign of Terror. I just think it's a better story. I like the Aztecs, but I like all of the other stories or think they're important. That's a really hard choice, that last place. But I would give up the Aztecs because I think you need to keep An Unearthly Child and the Daleks. I love the Keys of Marinus. I love the Reign of Terror. So it just ran into a situation where something good had to be cut, and I would give up the Aztecs. I prefer the Reign of Terror over it. Next on the list is season 2, where I'm attempting to read my handwriting. The first thing I know I would give up would be The Chase, because I'm just not a big fan of The Chase. I love the book ending episodes. Episode 1 and episode 6 are great, and there's some good parts in some of the other episodes, but some of the episodes are just rubbish. I'm just overall not a big fan of The Chase. I would give up the Web Planet. I don't think I really have to explain myself on that one. Because there's a lot of good stuff in season 2, and if you're having to get rid of almost half of season 2, the Web Planet's just got to be one of those that go. I mean, I shouldn't have to explain that. Most of you guys understand why the Web Planet. It'd probably be number 1 on your list for the season. Next on the list is The Crusade, simply because it's incomplete. That, of course, being the only incomplete story this season. Season 2 is the 60s season in the best shape with only 2 of its episodes missing. And I like The Crusade a lot. I think it's fantastic. But due to it being incomplete, it would be one of the ones to me that had to go. And then the final one, I think I'd go with the Space Museum, which is a shame because I like the Space Museum. I think it's a very underrated story, and I like all of the Space Museum, not just episode 1. I think it's a good story. But I like all of the other stories a little better. I love Planet of the Giants, very underrated. I like the Dalek Invasion of Earth. It's my favorite Hartnell Dalek story. I love the Time Meddler. I love the Rescue. I love the Romans. I just love those stories. Season 2 is my favorite Hartnell season. So, yeah, I would have to sacrifice the Chase, the Web Planet, the Crusade, and the Space Museum. Those would be the ones the aliens would get. Season 3, I would give up the Myth Makers. I don't really care for the Myth Makers. It's fine. I don't think it's bad. The novelization was a good read. The actual story was okay. The recon's very hard to get through. And that it's got that really, really bad incidental music that you guys know. I mean, it's got to be the clip I use more than anything, is that clip of me reacting to that incidental music. It's just dreadful. I'd probably give up the Savages just because I've never seen the Savages. And it's completely missing. And I don't think it's really notorious for a lot other than, I don't think it's really known for a lot other than Stephen leaving. I don't really know much about it, which I like. I like the fact I'll be going into it mostly blind. That'll be nice. But no one ever really talks about the Savages. It's just not one that seems to come up. It's more known for Stephen leaving than anything. So I'd probably get rid of that one. Next is the Gunfighters, and I know it's complete, but it's the Gunfighters. There's just so many better stories this season, even ones that are incomplete, even ones that are animated, that are just better than the Gunfighters. I don't really care for the Gunfighters. It's got a couple neat things going for it. I like the guy playing Doc Holliday, but I don't care for the Gunfighters. And then last on the list would be Mission to the Unknown. And I like Mission to the Unknown. I do, but I don't feel like losing it is as big of a loss as some stuff. Like, I'm certainly not going to sacrifice Dalek's Master Plan, and God knows I find Dalek's Master Plan overrated. But I certainly wouldn't sacrifice it. I like Galaxy 4 a lot. You know, a story that basically teaches you can't trust blondes. Oh, that's a story I can get behind all day long. I enjoy the Celestial Toymaker, especially the animation. I'm surprised by how much I really like the animation for Toymaker. My hat's off to Shapeshifter Studios on that one. And then I think, you know, the Ark. I love the Ark. I think it's underrated. I like the War Machines. I think there's just a lot of other really good cracking stories this season. So it would definitely have to be those 4 for me. The Mythmakers, the Savages, the Gunfighters, and Mission to the Unknown. Season 4, moving into Troughton's era. I would have to sacrifice the Smugglers, also a Hartnell story. I like the Smugglers. I've read the novelization of it. I do hope it gets animated. But I love Season 4. Season 4 is my favorite 60s season. So it's just one of those that doesn't quite make the cut, especially with it being completely missing. I would also get rid of the Faceless Ones, and I like the Faceless Ones. I think the animation for it's good. I don't love the Faceless Ones. It is one of the weaker stories this season for me, and one of the weaker Troughton era stories, but I still like it. I think it would have worked a little better as a 4-parter, perhaps, but I still enjoy it. I think it's fine. But it would so much this season that I like, it would be the one that it would be one of the ones that had to go. Next is the Highlanders, and this pains me because I love the Highlanders. I love the Highlanders. It's so much fun. But with it being completely missing, and with there being so many other stories I like, it would unfortunately just be one of those that had to go. And that pains me because I love the recon of it. I love the novelization. It's a fun story. It's a funny story. I would love for some episodes of it to be found in real life. But just sadly, as I'm going through the list, it gets progressively harder. It would be one of those that had to go. And then the last one would be the Underwater Menace for kind of the same reason, because I enjoy the Underwater Menace. I think it's underrated. I think the Underwater Menace works if you know the Underwater Menace's reputation. Like, if you know it by reputation before you see it for the first time, and you know that it's not Caves of Androzani or Carnival of Monsters or Genesis, and you know it's not well regarded, and you kind of go in with those lower expectations, I think you can really enjoy it. Now, if someone has trolled you and they told you it's the greatest, you know, Doctor Who story ever made, then yeah, you're going to be underwhelmed. But, you know, going in knowing that it wasn't very highly thought of, and the first time I ever watched Underwater Menace was with the animation came out. I watched the black and white animation for episodes 1 and 4 and the surviving episodes for episodes 2 and 3. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice little piece of Troughton Doctor Who. But I would still have to let it go, much like the Highlanders, just because there's so much more else this season that is necessary or just good. Like, because I'd have to save 10th Planet, because it's 10th Planet. I love Power of the Daleks. I'd have to save that. I love the Macroterra, especially down to the animation. I'd have to save that. Evil of the Daleks, I would have to save. And then the Moon Base, I love. I have to save those 5. And that was basically it there. I knew the 5 I had to save, which meant mathematically the other 4 had to go. This one was really hard to do because I love Season 4. Now, moving into Season 5, we do start dropping down to those 7 story seasons. So the aliens are only going to be taking 3 for these last 2 seasons instead of 4, because they do let us keep the higher number there, which is darn nice of them, I guess. Down to my negotiating skills, of course. This way, I've only had to give up half of Doctor Who. Well, let's not phrase it like that. This way, I've managed to save just over half of each season of Doctor Who. Yeah, let's put it that way. So Season 5, I would give up Fury from the Deep, because if I never have to watch that animation again, okay, I'm cool with that. Which is a shame, because Fury has such a good story. I love the story for Fury from the Deep. It's a fantastic story, but it is let down by its animation. The animation is terrible. If this story was found, even if it was only like half found, it would definitely be staying and something else would be going. But with that animation and with it being completely missing, it's definitely on the going list. Next on the list is the Wheel in Space, just because it is a little underwhelming. I actually don't mind the Wheel in Space, but the recon episodes are hard to get through, and it's just an easy choice to pick it. And then the last one is the Ice Warriors, because I just don't get into the Ice Warriors that much, the original Ice Warriors. I respect the fact most of it exists, and the animation for the missing episodes looks good. Just from a story standpoint, the Ice Warriors never does much for me. And again, it boils down to that situation where I really like the other 4 stories and think they're important. I think you need to keep Tomb of the Cybermen and Enemy of the World, because they're the only 2 complete Troughton stories pre-Season 6. The only 2 from before Season 6 that are complete. So you need to keep those. And then I think you keep Web of Fear, because Web of Fear is just very good. And I think you keep Abominable Snowmen, because Abominable Snowmen is just very good. So the others just kind of have to go, because I have to keep those 4. Season 6, the Space Pirates obviously has to go just because it's being missing, which is a shame because I liked the novelization, and the surviving episode 2 is fine. The recons for the other episodes do get progressively harder to get through. But just because so much of it's missing, it's obviously the first one on the list. The Dominators can go. As much as I hate to see a complete Troughton go, the Dominators really just isn't that good in a season that has a lot of good stories. So the Dominators has to go. And then the last one I think would be trickier for a lot of people, but I went with the Seeds of Death, because while I enjoy the Seeds of Death, I just prefer the other stories this season more. I like the Crotons. I think it's very underrated. I love the Invasion. It's probably the best Cybermen story ever made. But the War Games, of course you have to keep the War Games. I love the War Games. And then the Mind Robber. I love the Mind Robber. It's just creative and neat, and it's nice to see Doctor Who delve into fantasy. So because of that, the Seeds of Death just kind of has to go by process of elimination, because I like the others. So I want to know what you think of this list, and which 60s stories you would be willing to sacrifice if you were, we were under threat of alien invasion and alien bombardment and War of the World. Which ones would you be willing to give up? Comment down below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. I also have a P.O. box if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney and Sam Venning. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members. It's very much appreciated. I have a P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is also down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.